let's talk about what's been actually. You may have seen it in the news last week as well. It's a very big topic at the moment. Puppy smuggling, which is big business. Last year, more than 60,000 dogs were commercially imported into the UK, according to Animal and Plant Health Agency figures. Now, a Bosworth MP has welcomed a government-led task force that aims to tackle the rising number of pet thefts across the country. Dr. Luke Evans is lending his support to the launch of the Pet Theft Task Force, which will investigate the recent reported rise in pet theft since the start of lockdown. The plans would ban the import of dogs with cropped ears or docked tails, raising the minimum age for importing a puppy from 15 weeks to 6 months, and banning the import of heavily pregnant dogs. He's with us now. We're just chatting about rugby off air, actually. Dr. Luke Evans, thank you for joining us. Tell us about the size of the problem, how big it really is.
Well, I think it's a really important problem, and Bosworth particularly and Leicestershire are real dog lovers. And during the lockdown, we've seen an explosion in people wanting to own dogs. The problem is with that, there's brought puppy profiteering, and I raised that up in January. We were seeing prices triple, quadruple with it. And what that's actually meant is we've started to see people using puppies as a form of commodity and leading to organised crime gangs actually using it to drive their spending. And this is a real big problem that we're concerned about. You hinted at the figures there. We import 66,000 dogs, but we've seen an increase of 260% of those coming in poor health. And that's something we really don't want to see as a nation of animal lovers. And so this consultation is all about bringing forward legislation in the right way to make sure the punishments are increased. And this builds on the animal welfare legislation that came in over the summer that increased the penalties from 6 months in jail to 5 years for causing animal cruelty, which I'm fully behind, as are many of my constituents.
What drives the demand for this, I wonder, in terms of, I suppose, the domestic audience, what we're doing, in a sense, that means that this is a market that can be profitable, that means that some people want to do this and treat animals so badly?
Well, I think the driving force behind it, especially with lockdown, was many people are at home thinking they can't go abroad. And what can they do to enhance their quality of life? And a pet really does do that. I myself got 2 puppies, one before each lockdown, and noticed an increase double in the price for my whippets. And so that's only normal. The problem is we see it every year at Christmas, but this has been exemplified by the pandemic and people cashing in. And the number of breeders you come into contact with who are reputable, who are not breeding or selling their puppies because they're worried about the market, only enhances the problem we have of people who are trying to profiteer in the first place. So it's a bit of a vicious cycle. So we're worried about that going up, but also what's going to happen when people start to return to work, get back to the office, and are they going to be able to care for their pets at home? And that's something brought forward by the charities who are concerned about it. So there's a real big picture to try and pick up. The main thing is trying to enforce it and make sure we have the legislation to really deter people from doing this, and then the task force put in place to actually catch people who are profiteering on this.
You mentioned the task force there, which was announced last week, doesn't it? What difference are you hoping it could make, and I suppose what should it make to the way that this illegal industry works?
Well, it's all very well us talking about what we'd like to see happen, but it needs to be practicable by the police and the agencies that enforce this. And that's the key point of the task force put forward by DEFRA, to see what solutions will actually make a difference. Because we all know we don't want to see harm to dogs and cats and pets, but it's making sure that we have the ability to catch them and what that should actually look like on the ground. And that's the thrust behind the Pet Task Force, to actually work out what the key ways are to make a difference.
And what do we, as potential pet owners, need to look out for when we are looking to get a dog, when we're looking to purchase a dog? Because there are so many brilliant breeders out there, but to make sure that we don't trip up and fall foul of some of the things that you're talking about.
Well, it's a really good point. And, the main thing is to do your research. And there's a government-backed campaign called Pet Fished. If you Google it, it'll come up, and that gives you all the tips of the best way of what to look for. And it's like with any deal, if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. So doing your research, making sure that if you are buying a puppy, that you speak to the breeders, that you go and see them with the mother, see what how they're looked after. And if it doesn't sound right, or people won't allow you to do that, then there could well be a problem here. And it's making sure you have that in awareness that this is a problem. People are trying to profit it. And if it doesn't sound right, just hold back and think again.
Finally, Luke, we've seen the UK entering the final stages of the Kabul evacuation. No more people called to the airport to leave as well. Just interested in what you have made of what we've seen over in Afghanistan, what you've made of the government's response to it, and the constituents as well, what they've been saying to you about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tragic case all round, which will have ramifications both locally, nationally and internationally for years to come. I think the key thing is the government has moved quickly to try and get people out as fast as possible. I mean, since April, when the government was telling people to get out of Afghanistan, 16,000 people have been evacuated, and 1,400 people in the last 24 hours have been taken out by the British support groups in there. The main thing that people are coming to me about is the veteran care and what that means for the veterans and their mental health, and what this will spark. Has it all been in vain? I think the British troops should be very proud of what they've done for 20 years to keep the peace, to keep education for women and girls, 20 million people in Afghanistan getting that education. And if they need help, there's plenty of help out there. There's the Veterans Gateway, where people can go to get the signposted support that they need. And any MP, any health service, any council will be able to direct people to get the help they want, because that's the big thing about this. There's going to be ramifications for years to come, and making sure people have the support to be able to talk about it is crucial.
Dr. Luke Evans, thank you very, very much for answering questions on both of those things. Really appreciate your time today. That's the Bosworth MP, Dr. Luke Evans there, chatting to us about puppy smuggling and about the situation in Afghanistan.